Is mental health a choice? This is one of the most common questions I get asked as a mental health professional, and it's quite a complicated thing to explore. To understand whether or not mental health is a choice, we need to start understanding the mind. I'm going to tell you just now, right at the beginning of this video, that the answer is yes, but that does not mean that anybody wakes up in a morning and says, you know what, my life's been going way too well recently. Do you know what I think I'm going to do? I'm going to get myself really depressed over the next couple of years. I think that would be a good fun thing to do. Nobody wakes up in a morning and thinks, do you know what I'm going to do? Today I'm going to get addicted to alcohol. That's not what we mean when we say, is mental health a choice? What people are trying to do when they say, is mental health a choice, is they're actually trying to be really encouraging. When they say yes, mental health is a choice, what they're trying to say is, this is a thing that can be changed. Ultimately, hidden behind that phrase is the idea that we're not broken. But let's get into that as we go through. First of all, let's understand what we mean by is mental health a choice by thinking about how our mind works. We have two different ways of thinking. Now, I don't know why I'm putting my hands up like this, but it's a good way to try and explain it. So we have two different ways of thinking. You have, on one hand, we have logical thinking, and on the other hand, we have emotional thinking. Now, let's think about logical thinking first. Logical thinking goes out and it looks at the world as a purely black and white fact-based thing. So here's some examples of logical thinking. Flying is the safest form of transport. In this country where I am at just now, so therefore in Scotland and in general the UK, we have no spiders that can actually hurt you in any way whatsoever. Driving is a safe thing. Your friends more than likely love you. You have not been promoted or got your degree or done well in your exams because people like you. You've done it because you've put hard work in. Well, why do I use these as examples of logical thinking? I mean, they're all very logical things. But actually, people are still absolutely terrified of flying and believe that every plane that they're on, no matter how many times they've flown, that the next flight that they go on is going to be the one that they don't come home from. People believe that spiders are going to hurt them or attack them, or that have some sort of incredible intelligence and sit there in stealth waiting for you to come home or go to your bed and then go, right, there's Margaret away to bed, I'm going to follow her and I'm going to bed too. We believe that we're not good enough in our endeavours, constantly plagued by imposter syndrome, which you can watch our video on our YouTube channel, since you're on it anyway, after you've watched this one. We believe that our friends don't love us or care for us, and we believe that we are inherently flawed in some way, and that in some way we're going to end up lonely and alone for the rest of our lives. Now, that isn't logical. That logic is all the other stuff I said. The spiders can't hurt you. Flying is an inherently safe form of transport. And this is the issue with logical thinking, is that logical thinking looks out there and it says, right, here's how the world works. And here are the facts that other people tell me, or that I can verify and have been verified, yet I'm still terrified. And that's where this comes in. You see, your brain has this incredible ability to make up stories. Let's explain how emotional thinking works. Your brain is a fortune teller. You might have heard me say that in other videos. So you have a fortune teller brain. And what that means is that your brain is out in advance making up stories in order to keep you safe and to tell you what's going to happen next. The basis of anxiety, for example, is the fact that your brain goes out into fortune teller and it starts to make up stories about all the things that can go wrong. Where we want to be in life is inherent trust in ourselves, where when our fortune teller brain gets ahead of itself, as it has to do, then it reaches out ahead of itself and it goes, this might happen, this thing might go wrong, and we're going to be okay. But for majority of us who have mental health issues or anxiety or anything like I mentioned earlier on, dependencies, all these things, our mind goes out into the future and it starts to create coping strategies for things that not only haven't happened, but have a very high likelihood that are not going to happen. Let's use some of our examples from earlier. If we think about flying, for instance, the person who's terrified of flying is not in the here and now. The person who is terrified of flying is sitting in an airport imagining a plane crashing with them on it and all of the inherent visuals that go along with that. The logic of the fact that flying is the safest form of transport, in fact, you're more likely to be bitten by a shark or hit by lightning, and all these various statistics that people chuck about when they talk about these things are entirely chucked away for the benefit of our emotional thinking. And our emotional thinking comes in and makes up all these stories, and it's trying to protect us. It's going, what you're about to do is dangerous. And the logic goes, no, it's not dangerous. But the emotion goes, yes, it bloody well is. Look at all these stories that I can run inside your head as if they are real. You might have heard me say this before, but if I ask you, for instance, just now to imagine a lemon, so if you think about like the taste of lemon, what a lemon would be like, fresh lemon in your mouth will start to water. And this is the same thing that's happening when you're thinking about the flying. Your mind is producing all of these images. You might not be consciously aware of them, but that doesn't mean they're not there. And then what happens is your mind or your body follows that up with all the emotions that it would connect to that to try and protect you and go, don't go on that great big tube of death. Even though the logic says that it's not a tube of death, it's actually the nicest way to get to your sunny holiday. In the same way, the spiders. We know that spiders are inherently safe. We know that they can't bite us or do anything. And we also know that they're not massively intelligent. They've got some intelligence, but they're not massively intelligent. You know, they're only wee, depending on which part of the country. Let's not get into a spider battle here where you say, well, you didn't see the one that was in my house last week, Brian. But our emotional thinking imagines them on us, biting us, in our hair, having the brains to be able to think, oh, I'm going to come up and go, and give you a big fright and give you a jump scare when you climb into the shower. That is just simply not logical, but that doesn't stop us feeling it. When we go into our relationships with our friends, we know that the logic says that they just told us that they loved us or they cared for us, that they're there every time we text or call or need them, especially if we are quite emotional. But our emotional thinking tells us that we are using them, or that they are tired of us, or that they're bored of us, or that they don't really love us. Now, it's got some basis in all of these things. These things don't just happen. It's something that your brain has learned at some point, but it might have learned it long time ago in a completely different relationship. But what it's doing is it's generalizing it out and it's putting it onto the relationship you're in at the moment. So, for example, you might have had a big fallout with your friends when you were 10 years old, and now you sit here at 20, 30, 40, 50, 60 years old, whatever age you might be, and you sit here still running that thing from 10 years old because your emotional thinking is going, I never want to feel that thing again. So it's trying to protect you. Our career and educational achievements. Like, genuinely, I remember when my wife turned round to me once and said that the reason that she thought that she got her first class honours degree was because one of her lecturers liked her. And I'm like, that's not what happened. The logic of the hours spent in the library, the consistent study, the amount of hard work she put in over about a 1.5 year period to try and get that first class, all of that logic dismissed for this emotion where her brain said, well, what our emotional thinking says is the most likely way that has happened is because somebody liked me and went, I can't possibly be that clever. But actually, she is that clever. She was that clever. She continues to be that clever. And that's why she got her first class. But our emotional thinking wiped out all the logic of her achievements to try and protect her from any disappointment she got when she got out there, or any ego that she might have. So in all of these cases, what our mind is trying to do is it's trying to keep us safe. So therefore, is mental health a choice? Well, at a deep emotional, unconscious level, yes. But as I said earlier, this is not somebody waking up in the morning and saying, as I said, do you know what? I've been so happy for the last wee while, let's get depressed. Or do you know what I'm going to do? Let me smoke weed until it becomes a significant issue in my life. Let me take coke until I have got a complete dependency on it and I can't go out or function without just taking a wee bump just before I go into whatever it might be. That's what people think when we say, is mental health a choice? But the choice to have that dependency, so And at emotional level, something in that person's mind is saying, you can't function without gear, for instance. Or what you can't do is you can't go into this situation or handle these emotions. So therefore, what you need to do is you need alcohol to try and numb them. And if you numb them with the alcohol, then that will take the emotions away. Logic says that's rubbish. That is just not happening at all. What's actually going to happen if you keep going down this road is it's going to get worse and worse and worse. And now you've got a dependency and you've got all the shame and the guilt and all of the other emotions that go along with that. So therefore, the person says, this can't possibly be a choice because I want to stop. Yes, logically you do, but you can't cure that dependency logically. You have to fix it emotionally. You have to sort it out emotionally. You have to deal with whatever emotions it is that are going on in this emotional thinking in order to get that thought away, to get the feeling away that then makes you think that you need alcohol or gear or that you want to dismiss all your achievements or whatever it is. And this is an important thing. I mentioned this earlier, but all of these things haven't just happened. Our brain needs to learn to be anxious about these. But the challenge is that one of the amazing things about the human mind is its ability to generalize. So one thing happens and your mind goes, right, I understand that. What if this is the same? That's the same. This is the same. This is the same. In some ways, that really helps us in many things. This might sound like a silly example, but if you walked into my office just now, where I am just now recording this video, you would understand where my chairs are. Now, you might never have seen a chair like that in your life, but you understand because you've seen thousands, if not millions, hundreds of thousands, millions of chairs in your life, that you understand what a chair looks like. I know it sounds silly, but that is actually really quite something. To be able to go, right, okay, I understand that looks like that. If I showed you a stool without a back on it or arms or anything like that, you go, that's a thing to sit on. I know how to use that. Now, this helps us in many places because we can do that. You can drive on any road in the country, even though you've never been there, because you understand the rules, because you can say, I know what that is. You can park in car parks. You can go to things that you've never been and done before, because your mind says, I might never have been here before, but I know how to do that. You can travel to a foreign country and get a train, because you understand how trains work. And even though you might not be able to read the ticket machine, you can find the wee flag that changes it into your language, and then you can go from there. This is generalization, and it's a really useful skill, and it does much more. We'll maybe do a future video on that because it does much more than the silly examples that I've just given. But from a mental health perspective, it says things like, my mum was scared of spiders, or my dad was scared of spiders, so now I'm scared of spiders. It says, I watched a movie once with a plane crash in it that really scared me and freaked me out, even though it was a movie that I know was silly and it was made and it was ridiculous. And actually it was aliens that shot the plane out of the sky. But my mind now thinks, when I'm about to get on a plane, what if? Now, it doesn't think there's aliens going to throw it out the sky, but it thinks, what if I was stuck in that situation? And your emotional thinking comes in to try and protect you. We need to deal with those situations, with the learning that caused this to happen, to be able to undo the choice. So, is your mental health a choice? Yes. But that, again, does not mean that you wake up in the morning and decide to have it. What it means is that somewhere deep inside your mind, something is happening, and a part of you, a big, deep, unconscious part of you, has chosen that this is the best way to keep you safe. And the great news is that if you've chosen that way to be, you can unchoose. Is that a word? I kind of tripped over it there because I didn't even know if unchoose was a word. I could hear it coming. And I thought, is unchoose a word? It is now. So unchoose it. You can actually teach your mind something else. And here's an even bigger thing to finish this video with, is if mental health negatively is a choice, that also means that if we can get your unconscious and your emotional thinking working in the right way, positivity, hope, self-worth and self-esteem, confidence, happiness, peace, whatever it is that you're looking for, can also be a choice. Unfortunately, that again does not mean that you can wake up in the morning and logically go, do you know what I'm going to do? I'm just going to decide to have a peaceful life for the rest of my days. But if you can get that into your emotional thinking, that it's important enough, that it has a big enough why, that you know how to do that, that is, in fact, entirely possible. So, to finish off, I'm going to ask the question again. Is mental health a choice? Yes, but it doesn't mean you're choosing it consciously. But unconsciously, something has decided that it's keeping you safe. And one of the best things that you can do to understand and help your own mental health is to ask yourself why it thinks like that and what it's trying to do. I'm Brian from Headstrong, and I hope you've enjoyed this video. Please subscribe to the channel. It really does help us. We're trying to grow the channel. Please tell some of your friends as well. And if you've enjoyed this video, I think you'll really enjoy the one called Why Do We Always Fight With Ourselves? It's a really interesting view on the mind. Anyway, I'll see you in a future video. Hope you've enjoyed it. See you soon. Bye.